Coming to paperback and e-readers, the steam season of The Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Season of The Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. I had a comment on my video where I talked about the situation between Velvet Comics and Ethan Van Sciver and his followers that I found to show how full of it many of those in Comicsgate actually are. Now, this individual, who is an Ethan Van Sciver sycophant, says that crapping on Ethan Van Sciver while proving his point about indie morons selling substandard quality books shake my head. Now, this individual basically shows me how full of it Comicsgate are as related to their mission and how they've become completely compromised. They're sitting there going out here attacking the publisher of Velvet Comics as regarding their Melvin comic book and saying that this book is substandard. However, when it comes down to their own books, when I make criticism of them, they don't see how substandard they are themselves. Now, as someone who has gone out here and bought a lot of independent comics like Melvin, books from guys like Corey Hardiman, like Our Lady of Crows, books like Michael Patrick Higgins' Savage Sin, books like Michael Capone's Purity, and books like Josh Howard's Dead at 17, and T-Bird and Throttle. Again, I spend lots of money on independent books from crowdfunding projects, and last month I spent almost $125 on independent books from crowdfunding projects because as a guy who, again, loves comics, I really want to see great books out here. And when it came down to Melvin, I didn't see that book as substandard at all. No, as someone who's been reading comics for over almost 40 years of his life, I didn't see anything as related to substandard, but what I see with many of the Comicsgate followers is a really substandard attitude and really just an elitist attitude where they want to be like these gatekeepers who want to keep out indie creators who don't fall in line with their politics, and how their behavior is no different than the behavior of the females who were a part of the Whisper network, like they allege Gail Simone and many others is a part of, and how both of them basically are what they're doing with their gatekeeping is keeping great creators out of the business to learn more about the craft of the business. That's what's really sad about these types of individuals, is they don't see how they're doing further damage to the comic book industry, which has been struggling for over 30 years to try to reclaim its audience after alienating that audience way back in 1994 when I was in college. Now, I remember when I was in college in 1994 and about to graduate, the comic book industry was starting to have issues. Unfortunately, many people couldn't see the issues they were having as related to their quality. And again, as they were out here, many of these people were looking to be insular and gatekeep the community and keep great people who, again, had a passion from comics, from learning more about the craft, learning more about the business and, again, the craft of comics so that they could improve in their craft. And that's where I got a bone to pick with Ethan Van Sciver and his followers. I got a bone to pick with these individuals because, again, during the early days of Comicsgate, they were out here talking about how there were so many quote-unquote woke comics and how there were so many woke comics that were so bad and how they had to provide an alternative. And as they were saying, oh, we want to provide this alternative, we start to see that that alternative really wasn't about providing really good quality books, because Cyberfrog was a mid comic, and many of the other books like Ripaverse are really terrible. And it's all about, again, them looking to push a narrative, and push a narrative where they and their followers want to promote the delusional idea they're going to be the saviors of the comic book industry. However, when we look at the actual numbers that don't lie, the numbers that haven't lied over the last 6 to 7 years since Comicsgate became a major part of social media, the numbers show us that these guys have had a negligible impact on the business, and I would say no impact at all. No impact, because when I look at the statistical numbers as related to comic book sales, we have companies like Marvel and DC hiding their numbers because they're so bad as related to orders versus sales. And we also have the whole comic book industry, again, having more comic shops close. I mean, the original business of Comicsgate was supposed to be, again, to shore up the industry with products that the customers would actually want, but we don't really see many customers going out here and buying many of these crowdfunded comics in large enough numbers to say that we're having an impact on the business. Because if that was the case, many of these books would have, again, sold to the point where they would be out here getting larger numbers. I mean, larger numbers than what we're getting, because I believe the top selling books these days, they basically, again, do maybe about 1,000, 2,000 at best. I mean, the top sellers on as related to crowdfunding are guys like Dan Mendoza with Zombie Tramp and many, and that's about it. And that's what I'm seeing these days. And I'm not really seeing much, again, change in the comic book industry for the better, because I'm seeing where the trends are, where we're seeing that most of these Comic-Cons, the people mostly are older, and again, fitting that median age that I talked about being 50 years old. This is what one of my Facebook friends told me. They said they didn't even go, they stopped going to Comic-Cons because the audience is so old at the Comic-Con. However, he would go to other shows and there would be children at those shows. So that, and along with the whole collapse of the comic shops as related to us going from about 3,000 comic shops in 2018 to about 300 at this point, show me that when it comes down to Comicsgate, they've had no impact, and Ethan Van Sciver and his followers haven't had much impact, yet they want to sit there and talk about substandard and quality books, want to go out here and deride books like Melvin from indie creators like Velvet Comics. I mean, guys like the guys at Velvet Comics, they're putting in the effort, and what they need from guys like many of these comic pros who want to complain about the business is a little guidance and a little support. I mean, we would be thinking that many of these so-called experts, I mean, talking about this book is substandard. Well, my experience with Cyberfrog was substandard. My experience with Isom was substandard. My experience with Alpha Core was substandard. But my experience with Melvin was very solid. My experience with Our Lady of Crows was solid. My experience with Savage Sin as related to the second issue was very solid. My experience with Purity was very solid. And my experience with T-Bird and Throttle and Dead at 17 was solid. And my experience with all of these books was very solid. And again, there's quality books out there, and we should be trying to get the word out about those books, and that's something Ethan Van Sciver and Comicsgate really haven't been doing for many of these small indie creators. They haven't been out here putting in that work to get the word out about those books. They haven't been putting the word out about those books, and again, it shows how disingenuous they are about trying to help this business, because one of the things that I do on this channel, and again, what I do, and this again isn't a big channel at all, is I go out here and I try to again get the word out about indie creators. I go out here and I put it in my community section on the post, letting people know when somebody's Kickstarter is up. I let people know when somebody's book is coming out. I let people know, review these books when they come out to get the word out about them. I mean, when has Ethan Van Sciver done that for other indie creators? That's the critical question I want to ask him and his followers. While they're turning their nose up at what they call substandard books, they're not, again, helping out this business, not helping out this business at all. No, not helping out at all, because while they go on their live streams and, again, have large audiences of people, they could be out here fostering readerships with these books and getting the word out about these books. But no, what they want to do is sit there and complain about Marvel and DC, complain about Marvel and DC and their books, and sit there and lament how bad things are as related to what they call woke comics. And again, want to complain about so-called woke comics. But the problem is that, again, this is not helping the industry, where we're losing readers every day, and people are becoming more and more alienated because of all of the drama from many of these comics YouTubers who sit there and complain about the problem, but don't focus on the solution. I mean, I'm the guy who, again, is focused on the solution because as someone who has over 20 years of publishing experience, I have understanding that the only way to build an audience for a book is with word of mouth. That's the only way you can build an audience for a book. And the only way many creators can learn about the craft of comics is guys like me doing online video reviews where we talk about different things as related to story, as related to technique, and help people learn more about the craft of comics. Because one of the reasons why we have so many bad comics is because many people in the industry in the 90s, after they fired Jim Shooter, a man who went out here and looked to create an environment where people could learn the craft at Marvel, you fired Jim Shooter and went out here and made the industry insular. As you made the industry insular, a lot of people learned bad habits, and as they learned these bad habits as related to art and overall storytelling in pictures, this is why the craft of comics have fallen off. But there are people, again, like the publishers at Velvet Comics, who want to learn this craft, and sadly, many of these comic pros don't want to teach anyone the craft of comics, and that's the whole sad part about this situation. Many of these folks, they want to go out here and be these so-called, again, elite, who basically want to create a fiefdom, want to create a fiefdom in comics where they can say they're the saviors of a comic book industry. And how can you be saviors when I look at these numbers? I look at the number of comic shops in this country, and there are less than 300. I look at the sales of top books like Spider-Man and Batman, books that at 1989 were basically selling six-figure numbers, now barely selling 10,000 or even 5,000 at this point. And these are numbers that are so low, they're on the level of self-publishers and indie publishers like myself. I mean, these numbers are embarrassing when you consider that these companies are billion-dollar corporations. They're embarrassing when you consider this is from a billion-dollar corporation and you can't sell books. And it's even more embarrassing when it comes down to guys like Ethan Van Sciver and his followers and Comicsgate, that they have not grown the same way the overall industry isn't growing, and isn't growing because many of these guys, they went out here talking a good game, but they don't know how to play the game and follow up with the next book. And at least the guys at Velvet Comics can follow up with the next book, because the copy of Melvin that I got is the second issue. They can come out and follow up with a second issue, but many of these Comicsgate guys, they come out with one book and we don't see nothing else. And one of the reasons why we don't see nothing else is not because they don't have the money, because Ethan has over $1 million from his Cyberfrog campaign, but they can't come out with another book because these guys are not creative, because in some cases they're intimidated by all this competition and they don't have a plan to follow up that next book. And that really shows me how these guys don't know the business. as related to things. Now, I myself have come out with comics like John Haynes at Death's Door and Esteem No Good Deed. The only thing that keeps me from producing regularly is a lack of funds. But if I were actually actively competitive, you would and had the money, you would be seeing books every year, and many of the artists I work with would possibly be getting steady paychecks because, as I see it, again, if you really are about creating quality books like I am, you're going to be out here getting those books out, and using your platform to go out here and sell books the way the guys at Velvet Comics are out here looking to sell books, because this is a sales business. But many in comics YouTube are like Ethan Van Sciver and his followers are not about sales. They're not about getting their sales numbers up. No, it's a grift where all they want to do is get these super chats, get these cash apps, get these donations from PayPal. Again, they want to get the money on the front end, but don't want to provide you with books on the back end. They are not a publishing enterprise like the way I am with SJS Direct. Yes, I go out here and I make videos, and I do make live streams, and that's part of the operation as related to selling books. But there are books coming out, and there are books ready to go. I mean, right now, on March 21st, just a week from now, the SJS Direct 2025 catalog is releasing with John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side, followed by, in April 25th, Esteem, Season of the Witch Girl. When it comes down to publishing, I can get these books out very quickly, the same way I did with John Haynes at Death's Door's Kickstarter. I got that book out early before I was supposed to do fulfillment. I mean, the fulfillment basically took place just a few days after the Kickstarter. People were getting their books almost immediately, and I launched that Kickstarter in the spring, and by the summer, everybody basically had their books except for one person who I still have their book. I'm waiting for them to give me their address. And again, I fulfilled that entire campaign, again, just in my own bedroom, just like I publish books in my own bedroom. And again, these guys out here, they have all this money and they still, again, can't get books out. That's what's really sad about this whole situation. Yet they want to go out here and talk about how guys at Velvet Comics are making substandard books. No, when it comes down to this business, everybody has to have a starting point. I myself had a starting point where I was doing hand-drawn covers because I didn't really know many artists as related to comics. I didn't know many artists. But over time, what happens is people learn more about the craft and they improve in the craft. And everybody's got to start out at the bottom. Many of your favorite artists basically started out at the bottom, making what people would say today are substandard books. But as people's craft evolve and they develop their skills, they start making books that are of higher quality. And again, we have to encourage many of the young rookies and talent out here to develop their skills. They are putting their best on the table right now, and the only way for them to improve is to continue making books, and not us going out here and ridiculing these individuals, not ridiculing them at all, or looking to be gatekeepers, because that's what killed the comic book industry. That's what killed creativity in the business. People wanted to gatekeep and go out here and keep people out. And again, as you kept people out, you alienated not only these indie creators, you alienated lots of customers. And as you alienated lots of customers, you drove people away. And that was one of the things that led to the decline of the comic book industry, is these gatekeepers like Comicsgate and these gatekeepers like the Whisper Network. They have basically choked out their own business to the point where most young customers want nothing to do with comics. And that's the sad state of affairs as related to this business. They sit there and call people like the publishers of Velvet Comics indie morons, not understanding those indie morons are the future, and those indie morons are the ones who are going to be the ones who we're going to pass the craft on to. That's something I understand as a publisher. Again, what Ethan Van Sciver's followers call an indie moron, I call a rookie looking to learn the craft, or a person looking to learn more about the business. And you would think in this business that's, again, on the brink of collapse, you would want to encourage talent, again, and help them learn more about writing, learn more about storytelling. That's what I'm trying to do. Again, I truly care about this medium, and I want to see talent learn. I want to see talent go out here and learn. I want to see them grow in their craft. I want to see guys like the publishers at Velvet Comics, again, learn more about this business, because they went out here, they were buying these comics, and they wanted to learn more about this business, and that's what I want to help them do. I want to help these creators, again, not only by buying their work, but doing the review videos so they can help and learn how to improve. Again, this is something I'm not seeing anybody in Comicsgate talking about. I don't see Ethan Van Sciver, I don't see Zach, I don't see any of these people sitting here and, again, helping out people as related to learning more about this craft and learning more about the models of storytelling, more about the techniques of storytelling, more about the way to, again, work panels and make a page work. I don't see them, again, using their years of experience to help out many of these young talents, but I go out here and I help out the young talents because I understand they are the future, and since they are the future, they need a space where they can learn more about this business, so that they can learn how to become better storytellers. That's what I really am deeply saddened about Comicsgate, because it's compromised its mission. It's gone from attacking the social justice types at Marvel and DC to attacking small independent creators. And when you attack small independent creators, that's when you've gone off the deep end, because again, it was many of those small indie creators. That was what many of these comic pros are. Many of them, before they worked at Marvel and DC, were rookies out here looking to, again, get their books out here. I remember so many guys starting out in the 80s working at independent companies like First Comics, like Now Comics, and many other small comic companies, again, looking to get their name out there, and again, looking to get their name out there just the same way the people at Velvet Comics were trying to do, and the way I was trying to do with for a while, but I eventually decided to move on. Again, people wanted to learn this business, but sadly, many people, they want to be the gatekeepers, and again, don't see how they have become what they preach against. That's what has happened with Ethan Van Sciver and many of the comics YouTube. They have become what they have preached against, and basically are the reason why the industry has gone into a further state of decline, because they are not about selling comics. They're about, again, looking to sell their narrative, but their narrative is basically imploding because less people are caring because they're not seeing any tangible results. They're not seeing any sort of finish. And again, they're not seeing where these guys are, again, following up with more books and showing how they are going to improve their quality. That was something I wanted to do. If I had the money, I would be out here, again, showing you how to actually progress and improve in your craft. And that's what I tried to do with Esteem No Good Deed and John Haynes at Death's Door. I mean, most people with John Haynes at Death's Door have told me how great this book is and how solidly written it is and how the action and everything flows very well, because I used techniques from screenwriting and knew how to do things in a 3-act paradigm and condense it into 32 pages. That was a major challenge for me. But the whole thing is that I look at this business, and again, a lot of these people, they take their business too personal on social media, and again, they are out here attacking many of the indie creators like Velvet Comics, and that's not something I'm all about. No, I'm all about trying to help these creators learn how to get better, how to make better quality books, and make more quality books as related to business, and be able to learn more about this craft so that they can go out here and become the next generation of comic creators and reach the next generation of kids and help them be able to enjoy action and adventure that expands their imaginations. Now, my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, is available on Lulu.com, and you can get that comic for the same price as it was at the 2022 Kickstarter by clicking the link in the description box. And my first digital comic, Esteem No Good Deed, is available on Kindle for 99 cents, and you can get that comic on Amazon.com And you can also get it in paperback in the Esteem series book, Esteem Blast from the Past. And you can pick up many of the books in the SJS Direct universe that I based my 2 comics on. You can find those books like the ISIS series, the Esteem series, and the John Haynes series on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find many of my books at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you, one of the things I would love to do is do a ISIS graphic novel. I've got 2 scripts already written, waiting to get done, but the only thing that keeps me from doing those scripts is funding. And again, I've been trying to raise the funds for years. And again, if you guys want to help out, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, PayPal, or Cash App to help with getting that project out there. And I also use that money to go out here and support many great independent comic creators. I use that money to support other independent comic creators and getting the word out about their books, reviewing their books. And I only do that, and I use that to, again, pay for the crowdfunding for those books. And I can only do that with your continuing support. So every donation you give me, again, I try to use some of that money, again, to help out other comic creators, help get those books more exposure. And I can only do that with your help. So every donation you give to the Patreon, PayPal, or Cash App helps me to get more books out, more books exposure, and get books to a larger audience on my social media. That's what I do with these videos. Now, these videos don't get many views, but they show how much I care about this business and how much I care to stand up for this business and help more people learn more about this whole craft of comics. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available on Lulu. John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes comic book. Get your copy of the first John Haynes comic at lulu.com today. Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.